Hola, bienvenidos. Me llamo es Raul Diego. Y this morning I am live streaming with ideas. If you don't know about me, then you're probably a censor. Censors don't know about me. Why? Too dumb. I am a genius painter. Y maybe el más intuitive man en todo el mundo, the whole world. That's why they call me Raul Diego. Because in Spanish, Raul Diego means intuitive. Anyhow, I couldn't help but noticing that sometimes some censors are, los censores, they are live streaming, but they can't do it. They don't know how to live stream. They can't think with their brains. They can only use their senses all the time. If they can't touch it, they don't understand it. Now, as an intuitive, I, Raul Diego, understand censors are not okay. They make me so mad. The other day I was having tapas down at my favorite Spanish restaurant. The waiter was a censor, obviously. He says, "You're not welcome to put ketchup on that." I said, "Why not?" He says, "It's because it's my face." I said, "Your face don't matter. I'm making art. I'm a genius. I'm drawing on your face with this ketchup. Why not? You want me to use mustard? I will. I'm only beginning. That's only the start. Look how much more beautiful you look now. Que bella. Que bella." That's what I told him. Anyhow, he was a censor. He didn't like it. I got kicked out of the restaurant. And they didn't even let me take my tapas. Los censores. Los censores hate me. ¿Y why? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? I'm a genius. And they're like a little rock sitting there on the ground, just gathering stupid dust. So I'm a little bit, poquito, el depresto this morning because nobody's really buying my paintings. I gotta admit it. I'm charging a very fair price. You know, most of them are under $100,000. And yet, my only understanding, my only explanation is there are too many censores that are preventing truth and beauty from entering the world. If all you can do is smell something, you're a censor. If all you can do is hear, you're a censor. If all you can do is taste, you're a censor. If you have ideas, well, maybe you're not a censor. Only one person watching Raul Diego's live stream. I'm almost 5 minutes in, and this just shows to show you about los censores. There is a conspiracy against me by los censores. Los censores hate what they don't understand. And what they don't understand is Raul Diego. I feel misunderstood. like a teenage girl who wears a lot of black clothing. ¿Por qué? S-E-N-S-O-R-E-S, sensores. Los sensores. Mi vida, my life, is filled with ideas. Y porque else is filled with sensors. I welcome. I don't know if I never met any of you before, because this is, of course, the first time that I, Raul Diego, have live streamed, but I'm hoping you are an intuitive and not a censor. I'm sure you are. If you are a censor, you say something dumb like, hey, look, there's a thing or something, because, hi, yes, see. Maybe you are a fan of my genius paintings, or maybe you want to learn how to paint with ideas, then you are in the right place. Maybe you are a censor who has come to their senses and said, Raul, teach me why I can't ever think. Maybe. But if you are just a censor coming in to smell and taste and touch things, then just go away. Nobody likes los sensores. Okay, so still only one person here. Nobody seems to like Raul Diego. Wow, I hadn't remember ever having a live stream that had such poor attendance as this one. Well, that's because it's my very first live stream, I guess, because I'm Raul Diego. Yeah, I will show you my ways. I will. Way number one. You go up to somebody, you ask them right away, are you a censor? And if they are, you spit in their face. Okay. And if they're an intuitive, you say, oh, you must love Raul Diego. And if they say no, they're a censor. Good. I'm glad you're an intuitive. Good. So you have ideas. You can paint with your ideas. You can dig with your ideas. You can cook with your ideas. You can do anything, really. That it's the same thing. Bienvenidos, Sredi Chandran. Would you like to buy one of my paintings for $45,000 US? I am having a sale right now because I am somewhat dismayed to report nobody has bought one of my paintings yet, even though I am the most genius painter in the entire world. En todo el mundo. Why? A conspiración de los censores against yo, Raul Diego. Because they hate me. Because I'm too intuitive for them. And all they can do is taste and smell. That's all you can do. Can you pay with ideas? That's a good idea. Only if the ideas are dollar bills. Then you can. Oh, I know. I'm not an ISFP. So, Sredi Chandran. Yo am not a censore. Okay? You know how I know? If I were ISFP, I would try to smell you right now. That's all they do. They smell and taste, and they're like animals, like beasts in the field. Raul, can I take over now, please? I'm doing a great job. Why you want to take over? Raul, you're a little bit ontologically violent towards censors, I gotta tell you. Censors are worthless trash. Why would I know? Bro, I'm dating a censor. I cannot help it that you are so stupid. It's not my fault. You are a stupid man. You probably a censor yourself. I am not a censor, Raul. Oh, see, you don't want to be called a censor either. You hate censors too. I don't hate censors. You hate censors. I know I hate censors because they're fucking censors. Los censores. It's like la basura de la todo del mundo. The trash of all the world? Doesn't even make any sense, Raul. I'm taking over. You go have yourself huevos rancheros for breakfast. All right. Adios, everybody. Bye, Raul. Hi there, everybody. I'm sorry I got here late, bro. I asked Raul to sit in for me, and it sounds like he was just sitting here trashing censors the whole time. I don't know what his fucking problem is. I'm not dismissing their value at all. I love censors. The fucking Raul Diego, he has got a chip on his shoulder about it. I think he might have been raised by, like, maybe ESTJ and ISTJ or something. And he's an INFP, maybe. Or maybe he's just an ENTP. Or maybe he's a censor too. You know, he's miss. I am not a censor. I'm sorry, Raul. I have just speculating here randomly. I don't mean to throw you under the bus like that. I know. You are definitely an intuitive. I am all the intuitive combined. I am hey, into hey. Well, that's a lot of them. Wow. You're pretty good at that, Raul. Okay, well, anyway, Raul, go away. I'm here now, everybody. It's me, it's Eric. I'm going to take off this hat because it looks exactly the same as Raul's hat. Which type is theoretically best at chess? I would suggest that would be either INTJ or I think it's INTJ. Because you could say ISTP, maybe, or even INTP, maybe, but I think it's probably INTJ because they're the most spatial. They've got NI in the dominant function. They're spatial in their logics. That is to say, TE, and they master specific logics, such as the logic of chess, and they know how to get better at things. And but you could say possibly ISTP. I think that that current number one guy in the world in chess is an ISTP. What's his name? Magnus Carlsen, something like that. That's what I would say. And in fact, I have a video like which game each type is the best at, and I suspect Magnus is an ISTP. See, the problem with chess for INTPs is that it's ultimately not very interesting. Just the same particularist logic over and over again. Well, I know you have to consider everything, right? The key thing is that there's a finite number of vectors to consider, and they interact on one plane. I don't think it requires ideation. It requires NI, because you can't possibly go through more than a few moves ahead on more than a few different permutational possibilities, right? You just don't have the capacity to make that many calculations. So what's really required is NI. What's the best course of action? What's the course of action that wins this for me, right? Would you agree that actualization for each type involves developing at least a certain amount of facility in the polar function? Yes, I would. And I would say it's not so much facility with it as it is a comfort with it, like allowing it into your life and acknowledging to yourself that you're not really understanding what you're supposed to do with it. Be willing and open to learning things through that modality when you can. You're never going to get adequate at it in any meaningful sense, but changing your attitude about it is a big deal. Like, everybody comes into life kind of either assuming the primacy of their own nature and stack, or having internalized a bunch of bullshit about their own nature and stack. And so, one area in which I think you're most likely to reflexively presume the primacy of your own is in your tool and seventh slot. So an INFP, for example, is going to reflexively presume the primacy of NE over SE. And I'm going to reflexively presume the primacy of TI over FI, that it's inherent to the world. It's not just my preference or it's not just me being biased in favor of the things that I am. It's in fact, it's actually better. Like it's almost impossible for me not to think that, no matter how much I try to pull back and be open about the various things that I think about, I cannot help but conclude that TI is a more usable deliberation function than FI because I'm polar, and so I don't have any experience using FI as a deliberative function. And being an SI user, I need experience with something to really understand it. See, this is the thing, Freddie Chandran. I'm gonna talk about your polar SE is likely screwing you over. Well, polar SE is one of the ones that is going to get societally condemned or noted or something. People are going to say, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you live up to your potential? Why don't you pull the trigger, dude? Just do this. Come on, dude. Just do this thing." And you're just like, "But I don't want to do that thing." And I'm still musing about this shit, and I don't find action to be particularly resolutional. So in that regard, it may be screwing you over in some sort of practical sense. Like the world's not going to respond very well to polar SE. But if you think it's a reflection of some failure of yourself, you just internalized society's unjustified bias towards externalized things. And that's where the bias really lies, is towards externalized things. So people are going to be expected to have good FE, be expected to have good TE, be expected to have good SE, and to a much lesser extent, be expected to have good NE, because NE's not really necessary. It's like you don't have to have good extroverted intuition to be perceived as totally viable and legitimate human being in the world. You kind of do need to have at least some extroverted thinking, at least some extroverted feeling, and at least some extroverted sensing to be considered in general by everybody to be legitimate, because those are the things they can judge you on. They can't really judge you on what's going on inside yourself without you expressing it until you've externalized it. Like the difference between ISTP and ENTP is incredibly striking. I'm constantly externalizing my TI. And the reason is because I'm not really externalizing my TI. I'm externalizing my NE, and it just happens to be constrained by TI instead of FI. So it's like you can really see the stark difference between TI and NE in ISTP versus an ENTP. But you'll note that it's in a lot of ways possible that ISTPs are generally more successful in life because they pursue the singular course and follow through and do shit, and doing shit's instrumental to them having the singular truth and stuff. It's a good stack for a lot of reasons, ISTPs. Okay. What can a type do to develop their TI? You could do deductive reasoning problems and stuff if you wanted to develop it. I'm not sure why you'd want to develop it. Like yesterday I was sort of asking Shane some typing questions, trying to pin down his TI as to where it is. And I concluded that it's not second slot. It's probably third, fourth, but it's not seventh. It's not 1, 2, or 7. So that's what I concluded, basically. But it was clear that there was a certain amount of not enjoying being tested like that and feeling like I gotta, if I can step it up, okay, yeah, that's the reality of somebody in us, trying to transform a third slot function into a second slot function is never going to happen, and there's no reason to. Take somebody like Jewel. Jewel's really good at the TI. Like she likes doing those problems. She gets them right usually. She's a little slower than your INTPs, ENTPs, and stuff, but she enjoys the challenge of them and usually gets them right and is smart and has good TI. And it's obviously not second slot also, even though she's getting the same answer. You can tell by how people interact with the thing. Like when I asked the question, Shane was thinking about it, this TI question, while Becky mouthed the answer to me, because not only did she immediately have the answer, but she wanted to show me that she had the answer because that's second slot TI and third slot FE. Freddie Chandran, I don't feel sorry for your family. I think your family's lucky. Every interaction I've ever had with you has been very pleasant and I find very worthwhile. So if you interact with them like you interact with me here, then I think they're very lucky to have you around. I mean, this is the thing. It's like, have you done anything worthwhile? Yeah, you've contributed worthwhile things to these live streams many times. You made a difference in my life, It's like, why shouldn't that kind of action be at least as impactful as extroverted sensing kind of action? It's more impactful to me, for sure. For people who have a language focus, language-based action is going to be more impactful than non-language-based action. As polar doesn't matter to me much at all, because the things I want to get out of spending time with anybody or socializing or whatever you want to call it have nothing to do with actions in the physical world. They have to do with talking and mutual understanding and coming to terms with new ideas and stuff like that, Is there anyone else in the chat? Cock Senpai is here. If I enjoy comparing options and choosing the best one to my standard, is that indicative of front stack NI? I kind of would need more specifics as to what those options might look like. I just kind of need an example, because it really depends on what the options are you're comparing and how you're comparing them, I suspect. And what your standard is, too. The best one to your standard is an interesting qualifier to that. You didn't say, if I enjoy comparing options and choosing the best one, is that indicative of front stack NI? To my standard. Best one to my standard seems to run afoul of the notion of NI entirely. Sinjin, hello. Boo. Boo to you too. Do you think that there's any value in using typology to determine your career? Yeah, sure. I think but a better way to put it is this. When you understand typology, what that means is you understand the way that your attentional manners relate to each other and your values according to their slots. So it means for me that when I run afoul of something, I can have a framework in which to understand why I ran afoul of it, and I can anticipate what I will run afoul of. So when I was younger, I had this problem where I never quite got a sense of the fact that my feelings would change. Like I might be enthusiastic about this at the moment, but I don't want to commit to working there as a job because there's elements about it that are going to wear on me and it's not going to be fun and I'm going to get really fucking sick of it and it's going to be torture eventually. Even though I'm feeling enthusiastic about it right now, I have to keep in mind the actuality of it, which is like, okay, but I'm going to have to drive all the way out here every fucking day. And that's going to be a huge commute and stuff like that. You know, stuff that when I was younger, I would just not account for because it's kind of an FI thing, right? It's like, I actually really dislike sitting in traffic a lot. So I can't just ignore that part because I didn't mind sitting in traffic today because it's the first time I'm doing this and it's new and this is all exciting and stuff, you know? Yes, I do think that INFPs can make good attorneys. I don't necessarily think it matters what fields they were working in, although I think it's necessarily the case that an INFP who became an attorney would work in a field that they felt passionate about and would become a attorney because they felt passionate about some field like that. But I think one of the advantages an INFP has going into law is that law is two things. It's TI mostly, and it's TE in terms of dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So INFP can do the TI fine. They've got the NE to understand possible lines of argumentation. And they've also got the TE to master the protocols, even though it's fourth slot. The problem I would see is they don't really like confrontation. They don't like adversarial environments and adversarial moments, really. And there are a couple of types of jobs that have the highest testosterone rates. And one of them is trial attorney. So trial attorneys are very aggressive. They are very adversarial. They don't give a fuck about the other side by definition. They're interested only in their side. So you're saying, well, if I were doing human rights law or something, I felt really genuinely passionate about it, you're going to have a tough time finding a lawyer job that allows you to engage entirely in justice upholding work, I think. I mean, it depends how you define justice, but I don't think you'd probably, or an INFP would probably be comfortable being a defense attorney and getting off a murderer or something, getting off whatever from their punishment, from their just punishment. I'd be comfortable with that. I wouldn't have a problem getting people off even if they were guilty, because I understand that I'm upholding the integrity of the system, namely that it is critical that it'd be very difficult to get convictions. But of course, the problem is with American law right now is the plea bargaining system has eliminated most jury trials. And so there's no pressure from the criminal justice system within on law like there should be, or too little pressure on them. Not enough jury nullification. Hence why I want to get better at TI, Eric. I know it would be helpful in my degree. What is your opinion of the death penalty, Eric? I'm opposed to it.
So this person that only need TE to get your degree.
Well, he's got foresight. He needs to get with it. ESTJ woman who makes him go to do his shit. I think Freddie's a man. I don't know. Are you a dude or a chick, Freddie? I don't know what you are, actually. I have no idea what kind of name Freddie is. I don't know anybody else named Freddie. Oh, you're a chick. Okay. Then you need to get with an ESTJ dude to boss you around. What you need, Freddie Chandran, is an asshole bossing you around. Everybody knows that. Convert your moisture into prose. Yeah, you could convert your moisture into prose. Now, the thing is, I don't know. I'm going to try to think of a good example of an INFP book. Well, I mean, the classic one is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a classic INFP book. Good morning to you, Eric. I think you are astonishingly creative and I like your hats. Well, Winston's mom, I got to tell you, I've been really enjoying, I really like your comments. The fact that you said, I liked this, I really liked it about my song there. I really appreciated that comment because, you know, it is so hard to get people to listen to or, you know, even give your music a chance. And even if they do, probably your music's not good enough for them to really like it. And every once in a while, maybe you'll get something that's better, and maybe, you know, it'll fly. And I work hard on trying to keep making my music better and trying to make my production values better and stuff like that. So it means a lot to me when people take the time to watch my music video and comment on it and stuff. Very kind of you. I appreciate it. I'm fairly limited in my moisture that I could never relate to the idea of FI being really sensitive or emotional. What do you mean you couldn't relate to FI being sensitive or emotional? FI is nothing but sensitive and emotional, is it?
Well, that's not true.
Well, what do you think it is then, Spacey?
Well, I think you can. I think FI, it makes you very like permeable to like the emotional energy that's flowing by, sort of. And I think there's kind of a couple of different basic modes you can kind of stick FI into, and you have your one mode that it's really the kind of mode that makes them look like a little bubbly fairy that you could never ever hate, you know, those kinds of FI users.
Right, there's also harm prevention as part of FI.
Well, right, and that's what I mean is when FI is in harm prevention mode, then it is closing off intentionally. That permeability ceases, and they actually can become very, jaded and kind of cold and shut off, and that's probably when they most look superficially like TI users.
Okay, so I want to address R3SH's comment here. No, INFPs can't do TI just fine. This idea that you're good at your eighth function is not true. It's probably your worst function after polar. I mean, I think your sixth is your worst after polar, followed by your fourth, but you could switch those two. Eighth actually is quite strong, and we can falsify what you're saying here pretty straightforwardly. What does it take, most of all, to successfully publish 6,000 some, or close to 6,000, maybe 6,000 is fine. I've looked in a long time, videos? Mostly it requires SE. Why have I attained any level of success at all on YouTube? Why do I have more than 100 subscribers? You know, it's the only answer really is SE. I have put up shitty videos. I put up good videos. I put up videos about this, about that, blah, 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 blah. I've hit NI. I've failed. I've missed NI. I've hit FI. I've missed FI. The one constant through it all, and I just kept putting shit up. Just kept doing it. Now, that's not maybe the most natural understanding or incarnation of SE. Maybe the most natural incarnation of SE involves more actual sensory world shit. But the thing is, that's the beautiful thing about having created an equivalent ecosystem for the metaphysical, which is the internet. It means that you can convert a small amount of SE into a large amount of object impact in fairly short order. And to say that I'm bad at SE is insane, because any objective calculation of how much I do, what I get done, and all that kind of stuff says, wow, this guy is amazing at SE. Now, Senjin is right. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. Senjin says, we use eighth just fine as far as others are concerned. Not so fine we use it for our own sake. Perfect example of this. I wrote this book, Gospel of Pantheon. It's a fiction book. Wrote the whole book, did the SE to follow through on working on it, and the NE to think it out, and all that kind of shit. And then once I finished writing it, I didn't have enough SE to send it to any publishers or send out any query letters about anything or anything like that. Because here's the limitation. Your eighth thought function always serves your first. If it's not serving your first, it's a pain in the fucking ass and you hate it. So Yeah. I mean, I think every type is likely to have good 8th slot in their aspect, in their native aspect. My native aspect is metaphysical. SE's native aspect is physical. So your 8th slot function is always going to be half of it you're good at, because they're always going to be the opposite, right? FITI, SENE, FETE, and NISI. Those two, there's going to be those ones, right? So you're good at the unnatural aspect of your 8th slot function, because you're first and foremost an actor if you're an NE Dom, for example, or a deliberator if you're a TI Dom, or a knower if you're an NI Dom, or an interfacer if you're a TE Dom. Because you're that kind of thing, you're actually pretty strong at both interface functions, or both knowledge functions, or both whatever. It's just but you can only be consciously and willfully strong at one of them, because to be a dominant NE person means I must have basically unconscious SE. It's an unconscious role function or a sub-instrumental function. Well, okay, R3SH. Note this. When I contradict socionics, that's where socionics is wrong. Okay? And socionics is wrong in a lot of places. But sixth, the reason sixth is worse, well, sixth is very similar in the sense that it's demonstrative, right? You're externalizing it, but you don't really apply it to yourself. But most importantly, you countervalue it when others do it. 8th slot function, you don't countervalue when others do it. 6th slot, you do countervalue when others do it, and you don't like frames that prioritize that function. So you're adversarial towards its entire frame, which is not the case with your 8th slot function. Like my TE is okay, it's gotten better over the years, but mostly it's SE still. It's like, how do I know how to do things? I don't really use TE. I use any SE, trial and error. I try shit, it doesn't work. I have to do something 3 times before I do it right. Anything in the physical world, at least. I've made 4 attempts, I think, already to fix the fucking hose turner thing on the front fucking hose. Because the simple solution, which is go buy a new one of those things, seems to elude me. So please say that again, what you think TE that functions represent. Okay, what TE functions represent? Okay, TE and FE are both interface functions. So TE interfaces with the particular logic of something that has its own logic. What has its own logic? Chess, a vacuum cleaner, a car engine, so something that works according to its own logic. And for people who are TE DOMs, they understand as well that there's a need for FE, but it's unconscious and serving their TE, which is why TE DOMs tend to be seen as assholes or whatever, or self-serving in some capacity, because their politeness, their management of other people's perceptions and other people's sort of sensitivities, it's always serving their utility of something. It's like they can correctly be accused of constantly using people to achieve things. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, I don't think, provided it's not non-consensual in some capacity. But yeah. So TE is that, and that's about it. To use FI in positive ways, it necessitates remembering that you cannot judge someone unless you walk a mile in their shoes. Correct. And yet, you can sometimes judge people whether or not you've walked a mile in their shoes, which is to say, if we don't have justice in the world, we don't hold individuals accountable and say, your behavior is unacceptable, and yeah. The key thing there, Shreddy Chandran, is distinguishing between judging a person and judging their behavior. I generally think that most people who do bad things do it for reasons that have to do with damage, pain, and whatever else, not out of malice. But it doesn't change the fact that it's irresponsible to not allow individuals to experience the natural consequences of their actions. If they've done something that's caused people to feel hurt or whatever, something, then they should incur the response to that, which is, I condemn you, or something like that. It's the only way that we have to uphold standards of decency towards each other while concurrently allowing individuals to survive their own mistakes. It's like people shouldn't be condemned forever because they make a mistake, and people shouldn't have their ontology as a whole condemned because they make a mistake. And yet it is absolutely the case that they should not be excused from that mistake entirely either. Yeah, I agree, Sinjin. My 6th slot does get me into trouble. My 8th slot doesn't really get me into trouble. That's correct. I don't end up, I just don't end up like being too dewy. Like, you pushed ahead and did this too fast. Now you've broken everything. Or you needed to wait and deliberate more. Nobody's ever going to tell me that, really, even though I do a lot of shit. Occasionally I'll jump the gun on something. It's just sort of a misjudgment. It's not really a failure of my SE in any meaningful sense. Another way to utilize FI positively recognize that every human being is inherently worthy and valuable by virtue of the fact that they are human. Yeah, basically. I still have trouble with that a little bit because there are some human beings whose wickedness would seem to mean that they forfeit some of that affording of basic decency. If they have no basic decency in the dealings with it, like Kim Jong-un, for example, he is not inherently worthy and valuable. He should be dead. He should be killed, If somebody would capture him, they should give him the death penalty. I'm not in favor of extra legal killings. I'm not saying we should just go arbitrarily assassinate the guy. I'm saying there's an example where I would support the death penalty, even though I'm opposed to the death penalty uniformly across the board. I would have to make an exception for Kim Jong-un or any other fucking dictator, because people deserve justice. The amount of damage done by that man and the amount of lives he's ruined and destroyed and harmed and whatever, and the amount of exploitation he just exacts from his citizenry means he's forfeit that affording of decency, Well, look, I want to say this, Freddie Chandran. I would limit the number of humans that I would declare as wholly wicked in that fashion to very few. You'd have to be guilty of some fucking horrendous, atrocious crimes that indicate you've got no concern or consideration for human rights at all. So I'm not trying to say you aren't right about that, but I am saying that it's not a universal quite. If it's not reasonable of us to say you forfeit your right to being human because you have violated so many other people's rights in so significant a way and have caused so much suffering, then no, I'm not saying we should torture them. I agree with you. We should never torture, even somebody who himself has tortured. We shouldn't torture the torturer because it's the difference between us and them, right? To the extent that we are getting satisfaction from causing physical suffering because we think that that's attaining justice, we would be sacrificing the thing we're protecting, and it's not acceptable. And I agree. I'm sure I would be utterly sickened by any kind of torture. Death penalty is a little different. I'm not talking about torturing them. In fact, I think death penalty should be by probably the guillotine. That seems quick and easy. But and I don't favor the death penalty at all, except for like war criminals. War criminals, yeah, I favor the death penalty because it's justice. Okay, well, Freddie Chandran, I agree with you from a TI level that we can't treat people as humans only when we feel like it. I agree. I'm not saying we should treat people only when we feel like it. That wasn't the criterion I presented as to determine who forfeits their rights, who forfeits their basic right to be human. It was not when we feel like it. It was when you're a dictator, war criminal type person, guilty of genocide, mass murder, mass rape, stuff like that. So that's not being arbitrary. I'm giving you an actual criterion that provides a reason for the exception that's it's basically dramatically overshadowing other considerations by virtue of the scope and scale of your atrocity induction. Then that would be the criterion. Well, I mean, the thing is, Freddie Chandran, here's where FI fails you. Because another way to use FI, imagine if yourself being the person being hanged, all the emotions and physical pain you would face in that situation. If I were the person being hanged, and I were being hanged for mass murder, torture, rape, genocide, if I didn't have enough emotional pain to make me wish to be dead at that point, then I truly deserve to die. And if I do have enough emotional pain to wish to be dead, then I'm grateful for it happening. After all, I'm a mass murderer. I'm a serial rapist. I have tortured hundreds of thousands of people or something like that, or have been responsible for that. In those circumstances, the thing is, the thing we're killing is not a human being. It's either a particularly virulent sociopath or just like somebody who gets off on being cruel and shit. You know, I don't know what else to say about it. Another issue with death penalty wrong for I agree. Absolutely. But that's not an issue when we're talking about whether or not we should give the death penalty to Kim Jong-un or Slobodan Milosevic. Those things aren't wrongful conviction. There's no chance of a wrongful conviction when you're talking about a leader of a country or something who's driven that country into an authoritarian morass and has persecuted some groups with, you know, rights violations and yada yada yada. My main issue with the death penalty is the fact that you grant power over life to mere humans. I can see a reasoning to depenalize the killing of wicked people, not to legalize it. Well, again, why should capital punishment ever exist, even for assholes? Why should we feed baser human desires for revenge or vengeance? Shouldn't the morally correct individuals take the higher road? The higher road is justice. Justice necessitates some retributive justice as well. To think that you can have justice with just rehabilitative justice is to deny justice entirely to people who deserve it. People who've been victimized deserve justice. That argument you make there, Freddie Chandran, would also work for any other kind of punishment. Forget the death penalty. Every punishment then is suspect unless it's purely directed towards rehabilitation. But whose feelings does that not consider? The victim of the crime. Whose rights and whose considerations are being washed away in that model? The victim, the person who's actually the one we should care about. Do you find value in the rest of the population being the bigger person? I don't see it as that. I see it as a need to preserve the integrity of a system where our values are reflected in our protocols. And I totally agree with wrongful convictions as a huge reason to get rid of the death penalty. I don't trust the cops enough to have the death penalty. I just don't. I don't trust the cops enough. I don't trust those crime labs enough. I just don't think that they are. I mean, they're doing their job in the adversarial process, but an adversarial process, I mean, you've got a lot of your chance to appeal anything in the process ends as soon as you're killed, right? So to give somebody that the death penalty is to necessarily say they've exhausted every conceivable appeal they could make on the decision in the first place. So you got to remember that too. I don't think anybody should ever be put to death before they've exhausted every conceivable appeal they might wish to make. That one went down the wrong tube.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you want to finish that?
Sure.
It's like a pepper pot to the sinuses. Oh. Hi, Joe. Shabadoo. Why should we be killing anyone? Well, look. I'm not exactly advocating that something be done to make sure that the death penalty is validated for war criminals. Okay. I'm not recommending or advocating a particular change to policy, really. I'm saying that if Kim Jong-un gets the death penalty, I won't feel as though humanity made a mistake. And I think it would be very difficult to argue that it has. And while I don't think he should be tortured, I think a public hanging would be appropriate in the middle of North Korea. Now, most North Koreans are so brainwashed by that fucker, they'd probably be upset about it. Even though they're all slaves. When you enslave an entire country, you get a bullet in the fucking head or a noose around the neck, and nobody but nobody should cry over you. The enemy is war 101. It's not even a moral legal question here. I mean, this is the thing. I think in general, people have this weird double standard where they excuse behavior in world leaders they would never tolerate in anybody else. I remember sitting in the raw room and chatting with people and saying, Putin's a fucking scumbag. And them going, he's a strong leader, blah, blah, a bunch of fucking shit that has to do with Russia politics, like their position on Russia in the political discussion or something. And they're ignoring the fact that Putin's a fucking scumbag. He's a kleptocrat. He is the author of countless policies that engage rights violations. He's opposed to free expression. He's a fucking scumbag. He annexed Crimea, and then people were like, you're blah, 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 good reason for that. No, because they're not holding him to the sort of standard that you hold any other individual. They're giving him a pass as the world leader. Yeah, a Mussolini type dragging through the streets sounds good. You know, give the mob of people who've been oppressed by the dictator free reign. Just here you go, toss them to them. I'm not going to be responsible for anything like torture or whatever, but I get the fact that I'm not the one who's been had me and my family all killed by this guy and had everybody enslaved, and everybody has to eat 3 grains of rice a day, and everybody's got fucking maggots in their body because there's no fucking medicine in the country. And why? Because Kim Jong-un wants to play Risk. He wants to play Risk.
Yeah, I think the people who go think of the dictator's feelings when he's about to be killed.
Right.
I think those are the people who have never actually said to themselves, you know what? I'm thinking of his feelings, and I hope he's fucking terrified.
Right.
I hope he feels all the fear that he has instilled in others. Right?
Exactly.
It's like we don't want him to feel good.
Here's the thing. FI people don't seem to get that FI that's in the past still counts.
Right.
It doesn't.
And it's cumulative, right? We're thinking about the collective FI of all of these people and all of what they felt. And not just the FI of this one person, which is clearly all that person cared about was their own FI.
Okay. Well, there was a woman whose family was killed in Nazi Germany. When asked what she thought of the Nazi guards, she said something along the lines of, I don't know what pressure they were under. Maybe they had families to feed. I was so moved the woman actually advocated for the mercy of the Nazis. You might claim that you want capital punishment for dictators, but you wouldn't be the one able to directly kill them. You're wrong about that, Freddie Chandran. I'd have no problem putting a bullet in
You're
Kim
wrong
Jong-un's
about
head.
that. Yeah.
I'd have no problem doing it.
I would love to do it.
Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't be traumatized by the experience.
Also true.
Killing a man would weigh on me, I'm sure. And I'd relive it thereafter. And it would be difficult. But if said, listen, here's Kim Jong-un. And for some reason, Eric, we need you to do it for some reason. I don't know. I can't come up with a reason why they would need me to do it.
Well, I think it would be easier to do if the person has additionally also wronged you personally.
I mean, that
in
the case of somebody like Kim Jong-un, that wouldn't matter. But I think the privilege should belong to somebody he has harmed.
Well, that in either way, I think the privilege, should go to somebody who has been harmed by them.
Yeah, right. It shouldn't go to me.
That person would find it easier to kill them as well.
Right. So, I mean, like, here's an interesting question. I have this one person who's my fucking enemy in life, which is this woman, Laura Lynn, who was just so fucking awful and shady and underhanded and dealing with me and fucking just thoroughly fucking criminally and immorally wronged me, right? In ways that I had good cause to be very upset about. But even in the immediate aftermath of that, when I was most outraged by it, it would not be the case that given the opportunity to physically harm her, I would have done so, even if I knew I could get away with it. Because that wouldn't have been an appropriate response to what she did. She didn't enslave, rape, torture, kill a bunch of people. She did me wrong. She did me really dirty, but that doesn't justify my violence because I wasn't subjected to any violence. Let's see. I still think the FI of the victims is crucial and they deserve justice, but no murder, please. Perhaps this is where we're referring to FI wanting to have his cake and eat it too. Yeah, I mean, first of all, but Freddie Chandran, why are you okay with causing an entire lifetime of imprisoned suffering, but you're not okay with killing them? It would seem to me that you're prioritizing sanctity of life over quality of life in ways that don't sustain any muster. Why is sanctity of life so precious and quality of life doesn't matter at all?
And some of these guys end up going to some serious white collar prisons too. You would have to at least make sure that they get thrown in, basically into a prison, full of people that probably are going to kill them before they finish their term.
I have a couple questions. Sinjin, what's CEAUCESCU style? What does that mean? I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
I could Google it, I guess. But I could just ask Sinjin too. And also, Winston's mom, what do you mean when you say it's a stoic reference there? I appreciate your declaring me non-slave. That's nice of you. Thank you. But what do you mean it's stoic? It's like, I don't get your reference. I'm not sure what you're referencing there. Could you explain it? See what else do I want to ask? It was lovely talking to you too, Freddie Chandran. I like the fact that you use the word lovely. It makes you sound like you're from a foreign country. Only British people and people from India, I think, use that word like that. It was lovely talking with you.
Well, lovely is a lovely word.
It is a lovely word. I had the loveliest time chatting with Spacey the other day. It was absolutely lovely. Black Rabbit, there's hell on earth with no capital punishment in Russia, but that prison is hell. Yeah, I know that Russia, if you're going to go to Russian prison, you might as well go yourself. You'd rather have capital. You'd rather be dead than undergo that fucking torture and misery forever. CAUSEC, how do you say that word? Was the dictator of Soviet Romania, was almost lynched by the mob, then killed by a firing squad. Oh, well, that's good that he didn't survive his dictatorial reign. Let me see what Winston's mom is referencing here. Last Man. Oh, Nietzsche, right. According to Nietzsche, the last man is the goal the modern society and Western civilization have apparently set for themselves. After having unsuccessfully attempted to get the populace to accept Übermensch as the goal of society, Zarathustra confronts them with a goal so disgusting that he assumes it will revolt them. Zarathustra fails in this attempt, and instead of repelling and manipulating the populace into pursuing the goal of Übermensch, the populace takes Zarathustra literally and chooses the disgusting goal of becoming the last man. This leaves Zarathustra disheartened and disappointed. The lives of the last men are pacifist and comfortable. There is no longer a distinction between ruler and ruled, strong over weak or supreme over the mediocre. Social conflict and challenges are minimized. Every individual lives equally and in superficial harmony. There is no original or flourishing social trends or ideas. Individuality and creativity are suppressed. Nietzsche warned that the society of the last men could be too barren and decadent to support the growth of healthy human life or great individuals. The last man is only possible when mankind having bred an apathetic person or ethnic group who are unable to dream, who are unwilling to take risks, and simply earn their living and keep born. The society of the last man is antithetical to Nietzsche's theoretical will of power, the main driving force and ambition behind human nature. The last man would be one response to the problem of nihilism, but the full implications of the death of God is yet to unfold. The event itself is far too great, too distant, too remote for the multitude's capacity to comprehend. Hey, here's the thing about that, all that nonsense is, it is absolutely not the case that comfort diminishes will or creativity. In fact, ease and comfort facilitate those things. To the extent that life is more difficult, requires more effort, more work, less leisure time. What the fuck did Nietzsche do anyway? What was his job? Being Nietzsche? What was Nietzsche's job? Does anybody know that? Does he have a job?
I don't remember his biography really. He had jobs. I think he was an academic.
Nietzsche? How do you spell that fucking word?
He was also in the military.
I have a job.
But maybe I'm thinking of someone else.
So does he? I want to know if Nietzsche thinks that he himself exercises this will to power that supposedly we're supposed to have or do or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, well, let's dive into this.
He began his career as a classical philologist. What the fuck is that? A philologist is the study of classical antiquity. That's not doing anything useful at all.
I know.
That is about as useless as you can possibly be. It's like in Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day, when what's his name? Bill Murray asked the chick in college, he's like, so what did you study in college? She says, oh, I majored in 19th century French literature. And he goes, oh, what an incredible fucking waste of time. The thing is, I don't feel like I'm a higher man. I feel like I do feel as though I'm a lot more optimal than I used to be. And I might even agree that in some ways I'm more optimal than many of my contemporaries in some capacity. But that does not make me a higher man in any sense. I would say it makes me lucky, mostly. Mostly lucky. You know, I've never been really at risk of really failing. I've always had something of a safety net, you know? And that enabled me to play a lot more than other people. So this crediting of him to himself, basically, is what he's doing. He's going like, look, these fucking censors are idiots, okay? These fucking censors, I'm sick of them. So I'm going to write this book here about how they're all fucking losers, and me, Raul Diego Frederick Nietzsche, am a fucking genius. That's what that shit's all about, really. Have you ever talked to somebody who would mistype and argue with you that they were the type they thought they were? Yes. We had a huge fucking argument with this one lady. It wasn't just me, too. I got Becky and Susie in the mix to help me with her. I mean, it just sort of happened that way. I did ask Susie to come, or I don't remember how that happened, actually. But Becky and Susie ended up both coming. And I talked to the woman for like at least 2 hours or more. But Becky talked to her for like 3 hours. Becky talked to her for 4 hours. I talked to her for 3 hours, and Susie talked to her for an hour. That's how it was. Becky stayed after I left, right? So, and it was an ISFP who was convinced that she was an ISFJ and wanted to be an ISFJ and kept telling us that she was an ISFJ. And these are all the reasons why she's an ISFJ. And we each independently drew out of her all this fucking obvious shit that's not SI, it's FI, you know? Explained it in great detail. Susie was expert in her FI, you know, ball cupping. Didn't matter. She fucking stomped her little ISFP foot and threw a tantrum about it. I don't know. Right Rumination still thinks he's an INTP. Definitely an INTJ. Yeah, he is totally not an INTP. He might, in theory, somebody said he's an ISTJ. I guess that's not completely impossible because I never met an ISTJ like that, but at least that's within their own possibilities somehow. INTP, no fucking way. There's no way that guy's an INTP. Why? What is it that makes somebody decide that they need to be racist like that? Like, I mean, I don't like to even talk about racism because it's just ridiculous and stupid. It's a dumb thing to have to talk about at all, and it's always counterproductive to talk about it, basically. But with that guy, it's like I don't get it. How can he sustain the notion that we ought to use this arbitrary criterion for immigration, even though it's both arbitrary and to any extent that one might dream it not be arbitrary, it correlates way more weakly with anything meaningful than a million other fucking possible
So
criteria.
what is this guy actually saying?
He's saying that we should make immigration determinations based on race. Like, don't let any dark people in.
Is that literally what he said? Is just don't let brown people in?
That's the gist of it. Yeah. I mean, and he's pretty cut and dry about it. And he's got lots of fucking coded weird language that goes like, you know, what they call race realists. He refers to basically white power people as race realists. Race realists. Uh-huh. Listen, I don't hate you. I'm just being realistic about your inferiority. You can't blame me for being realistic. Everybody likes realism, right? Oh, Sinjin says he's not sure if NI serves SI or SI serves NI for this guy, but it's XTJ. If you're not sure and I'm not sure, then that makes me think is more possible that he could be an ISTJ.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
I have to agree.
if you don't think if you don't smell the NI, then that makes me lean a little towards IS, maybe. Anyway, regardless, bag of chips. Someone's job field of study. The arbitrary usefulness of that job field of study doesn't negate the ideas they put out into the world and make them any less valid. Well, I mean, but that's true, bag of chips, except you do have to watch out for what you'd call interframe contradictions. So, in other words, the locutionary frame shouldn't contradict with the illocutionary frame. If I'm giving you a big lecture about how important it is that, you know, everybody be kind to each other, and then in the middle of this lecture I go, hey, fucktard! I said be kind, asswipe! Fucking retard! Jesus Christ! You're not going to take me seriously anymore, right? If I'm a useless dandy and I'm writing books about will to power, you shouldn't take me seriously. And if anybody in history was a useless dandy, it was indeed Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm right there too. Hey, I'm a useless dandy. That's what the fuck I am. Okay? I'm a useless dandy. Unlike Friedrich Nietzsche, though, I would never make the mistake of writing a book about that kind of shit because it's so obviously an FE flail. You know, why did Nietzsche write that book? He was making an FE move.
See, I think he was an INFJ, but most people don't seem to agree with me.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's what the whole fucking thing seems like to me. Is a big fucking FE ploy.
INTJ seems to be the consensus, but I can just see the FE in there. Like,
none of your biz. Are you racist against censors? Are you part of Raul Dieger's Censors Be Gone political party? He says that right rumination's model would be more correct if he just exported all the censors. You mean deport, I believe.
No, it's best if we just ethnically cleanse them, I think.
I would like that if ethnic cleansing meant actually cleaning them. So, like, they send out all the intuitives. Go straight to the sorority house. Clean all these censors. All right, come on, ladies.
Honestly, though, shouldn't the censors be cleaning us?
Well, listen.
Really think about it.
We're in charge of the narratives, so we can convince them as intuitives which way it should be.
Right.
And
exactly.
And when we get tired of one way, we'll go the other way. Okay. Yeah. And then I explain. No. It's always meant to go the other way eventually. Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. Maybe.
Ponce de Leon. Wait, what's that guy's name? Ponce de Leon?
Yeah.
That's his full. It seems like there's one more word in there. Ponce de Leon?
Maybe. But he was some European explorer, right?
Ponce de Leon. Ponce de Leon. Okay. Juan Ponce de Leon is a former governor of Puerto Rico. I did not know that. He was the first governor of Puerto Rico. Juan Ponce de Leon, Spanish pronunciation, ex-Juan Panoy, commonly known as Ponce de Leon, was a Spanish explorer and conquistador known for leading the first official European expedition to Florida, where he found the Fountain of Youth, and the first governor of Puerto Rico, the land of grapefruit flavor. He was born in Santiago de Campos, Valladolid, Spain, in 1474. Though little is known about his family, he was of noble birth and served in the Spanish military from a young age. He first came to the Americas as a gentleman volunteer with Christopher Columbus's second expedition in 1493. A gentleman volunteer? He first came to the Americas as a gentleman volunteer. Do you need any volunteers to be gentlemen? Anybody?
Yeah.
Do you have enough gentlemen in where you're going?
I volunteer.
It shall be me. I volunteer to be the gentleman.
Yeah.
Bring me my wine.
Yeah. I don't know. He didn't even reach 50, so that Fountain of Youth didn't seem to help much, huh?
No, he faked his own death.
Okay.
He's actually still alive. He got a lot of plastic surgery. Now he's Kim Jong-un, actually.
Oh.
That's where Kim Jong-un came from.
All right.
Is Ponce de Leon emerging. The world would become quite logistically unintelligent without sensors. Best to keep them around so we have stoplights and yellow lines on the road. I know. I mean, for lots of reasons, including I need to eat, and I'm not going to make my own self food, so, I need to take showers more frequently than I otherwise would. Spacey wouldn't be sitting here next to me if I weren't with Kimberly right now. He'd have to sit a little further away because the stench would drive him. As it would have been a week and a half since my last shower. Okay. The Nazis took his work to have racist leanings when they didn't really. Oh, Nietzsche's? After Nietzsche died, his family reinterpreted his works to have a racist Nazi bent. He was German, and this free working happened around that time. All that horrible shit was going on in Germany. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a Nazi. I never, that's not one of my critiques of Nietzsche. The fact that the Nazis used Nietzsche's shit for whatever they used it for, that doesn't make me think less of Nietzsche. That's irrelevant. I mean, but the fact is, the reason they could use it is because it's not real philosophy. It's posturing. It's FE posturing. He's a little bit like the Ponce de Leon of philosophers. He's a gentleman volunteer.
Yeah.
Or a volunteer gentleman. What was it?
Yeah, gentleman volunteer.
I wish it were a volunteer gentleman. By the early 1500s, Ponce de Leon was a top military official with the colonial government of Hispaniola, where he helped crush a rebellion of native Taino people. Thank God. Hey, you know what? He's not just a gentleman. He helps us kill these natives. So, he's useful too.
Yeah.
He doesn't just sit around and,
I bet he didn't even help much. I bet he was just there.
He probably helped by going, you, serf,
yeah,
kill those natives.
Right, exactly.
He was authorized to explore the neighboring island of Puerto Rico in 1508 for serving as the first governor of Puerto Rico by appointment of the Spanish crown. While Ponce de Leon grew quite wealthy from his plantations and mines, he faced an ongoing legal conflict with Diego Columbus, the late Christopher Columbus' son, over the right to govern Puerto Rico. Hey, you can't govern my dad's island. The hell I can't! After a long court battle, Columbus replaced the Ponce de Leon and governor in 1511. Ponce de Leon decided to follow the advice of the sympathetic King Ferdinand and explore more of the Caribbean Sea. So Christopher Columbus's son, Diego Columbus, won the court fight over Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
You learn something new every day. In 1513, Ponce de Leon led the first known European expedition to La Florida, which he named during his first voyage there. We shall call this La Florida. He landed somewhere along Florida's east coast, then charted the Atlantic coast of the Florida Keys along the Gulf Coast and perhaps as far as Charlotte Harbor. Though in popular culture, he supposedly was searching for the fountain of youth, there is no contemporary evidence to support that story, which all modern historians call a myth, except host Eric, who insists it's true, and that not only was he searching for the fountain of youth, but that he did find it and is now still alive, younger than ever, as Kim Jong-un. Where in the world is Diego? Well, Raul Diego left a while back, but Diego Columbus, hopefully he's buried in his native land of Puerto Rico. I kind of want to see where Diego Columbus is buried. But first, let me find out this. Other important things. The last voyage to Florida. In early 1521, Ponce de Leon organized a colonizing expedition of some 200 men, including priests, farmers, and artisans, 50 horses, and other domestic animals, and farming implements carried on 2 ships. The expedition landed somewhere on the coast of southwest Florida, likely in the vicinity of Charlotte Harbor, areas where Ponce de Leon had visited earlier. Before the settlement could be established, poetic justice, the colonists were attacked by the Calusa, the indigenous people who dominated southern Florida and whose principal town was nearby. Ponce de Leon was mortally wounded in the skirmish when an arrow poisoned with the sap of the manchineel tree struck his thigh. The expedition immediately abandoned the colonization attempt and sailed to Havana, Cuba, where Ponce de Leon died of his wounds. He was buried in Puerto Rico, and Diego Columbus pissed on his grave. Wow. Diego Columbus really didn't like that guy. Let's see. He was the elder son of Christopher Columbus and his wife, Felipa Manes Perestrello. He's from Portugal, born in Portugal or Lisbon. He spent most of his adult life trying to regain the titles and privileges granted to his father for his explorations and then denied him in 1500. He was greatly aided in this goal by his marriage to Maria de Toledo y Rojas, niece of the second Duke of Alba, who was a cousin of King Ferdinand. Diego was made a page in the Spanish court in 1492, when the year his father embarked on his first voyage. Diego had a younger half-brother, Fernando. Ferdinand and Diego had been pages to Prince Don Juan, then became pages to Queen Isabella. What does a page do anyway?
Just like a little servant boy, basically.
Go get me this.
It's basically like your very first step towards becoming a knight, I think.
Okay. Let's see. In 1508, he was named governor of the Indies, the post his father had held, arriving to Santo Domingo in 1509. He established his home, Alcázar de Colón, which still stands there, in Santo Domingo, in what is now the Dominican Republic. According to Floyd, Diego was accompanied by a splendid entourage: his wife, Donna Maria, the first Grand Dama of the New World, the Duke of Alba's niece, with her own suite of doncellas, and his immediate relatives, Ferdinando, his half-brother, his 2 uncles, Diego and Bartolome, and his cousins, Andrea and Giovanni. Also on the expedition were his criados and his father's old retainers, Marcos de Aguilar, Diego Mendez, his business manager, Geronimo de Aguero, his former tutor. Other loyal Columbusistas met him at Santo Domingo, and his uncle by marriage, Francisco de Garay, whom he named Alguacil Mayor, and Bartolome's criados. His coming represented the permanent establishment of the most titled and notable family in the islands, at least for many years. So, okay, I guess he was a bigwig of some sort. Yeah. And his house, where is his house? This is his house? You can see his house. I can put a link here so you can see his house. Christopher Columbus's son's house. The most interesting house you'll ever see in life is right here for you to enjoy. There you go. It's got a sign. What else does it have? It's got a building. It was pretty impressive building. That's all that house for just one Christopher Columbus's son. A lot of it looks kind of like a prison almost. Ah, I like your shoulder, boy. This guy's saying, "Hey, you and me, don't tell anybody about this, okay? Okay. You're my page. Remember that. You're just my page." You guys can't see the picture, of course, that I'm looking at. This is a painting, a fairly unsettling looking painting between a gentleman volunteer and his page. I dislike ABBA, but if the ugly shoe fits, you dislike ABBA? Take a chance on me. I'll be first in line. Maybe I'm too free. Take a chance on me. How can you dislike ABBA? How can you dislike Dancing Queen? You know, that's what they used to call me back in high school. Said I was the Dancing Queen. I could twirl and whirl around the floor like nobody's business. The search for the fountain of youth is a metaphor for being a colonial fop piece of shit. What are you doing to all those native people? I'm looking for the fountain of youth. You seem to be murdering and raping all those people. It's hard to find, is the thing. I thought it might be behind these people here, and no fountain. But you know, I gotta look for it. And sorry, that one was gonna get away. Fernando. The song is Fernando. I'm not familiar with Fernando. Is that an ABBA song? Fernando? Or was it a song about Fernando Valenzuela? Fernando Valenzuela, you have a screwball, throw it across the plate. Striking at everyone with your screwball, Fernando Valenzuela hate. Lady Gaga sings Fernando Valenzuela, I hate you. That's weird. Why does she hate Fernando Valenzuela so much? He's one of the few pitchers I can think of that throws the screwball. You know, it's like they don't throw that anymore in the major leagues. Sreddy Chandran, you're back, but have you learned to throw a screwball? Or what? What's that other kind of pitch that a knuckleball? It's interesting how some pitchers are knuckleball pitchers and they throw like 20 miles per hour slower than everybody else, but they can still be successful. That's pretty cool. If I were going to be a pitcher in the major leagues, I'd want to be a knuckleball pitcher because you could pitch for a long time. Your arm doesn't wear out because they don't throw nearly as hard, you know. But the problem is sometimes their knuckleball doesn't knuckle properly, in which case they have a tough day. They have to. It's like they're a one pitch pony, really. And if it's not working, then they're gonna get hammered. It's just like throwing a bunch of lofty softballs to throwing batting practice at that point. Okay, enough about knuckleballs and screwballs. Though sure, it's important. I think I'm gonna click this link and see what that is. Oops, no, cancel. New habit. Let's see. In order, Christopher Columbus's house, Gracewood, Dollywood. Right. Exactly. I'm sitting in front of my oven waiting for my brownies to get done watching this. Sounds like the beginning of a country song, really. Sit in front of the oven waiting for the brownies to finish. Or maybe a commercial. And that's when I need my U-band in my hand. I do need a cup of U-band right now. I could use a cup of U-Ban. 8:35 in the morning. And I haven't had any coffee yet.
Right?
Why haven't you gone and made it yet, Spacey? Don't you know that's your job to make coffee?
I don't want to be the one going in there when everyone's still asleep and shit.
Listen, you go in there, do a little tap dance on the kitchen floor and say, ha, cha, 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 cha. Get up, motherfuckers. Spacey in the his house. That sounds like a good plan. That'd be out of character for you. They'd be like, hey, Spacey, why so extroverted all of a sudden?
Hey, Spacey, why so extroverted?
Right.
All of a sudden.
That's what they'd say to you. Will I ever come to a conclusion about my type? Yes, Freddie Chandran. You will conclude that whatever type you are, it is wonderful. That's what you'll conclude. Inka Dinka Doo, Jimmy Durante. Inka Dinka Doo. Jimmy Durante said Inka Dinka Doo. I like Inka Dinka Doo. That sounds pretty good. Inka Dinka Doo. Seems to fall naturally from Inka Dinka, but maybe it could be something else. Inka Dinka Da. Inka Dinka Pinka.
I think Freddie Chandran could be an INFP. Eric, what do you think?
I think it's quite possible that Freddie Chandran is an INFP. Maybe the case, Freddie Chandran, that not every type is wonderful. But listen, Freddie Chandran, INFPs are wonderful.
They are wonderful. I always get along with them.
I do too. Well, I don't always get along with them. I'm often intimidated by them. Freddie Chandran doesn't intimidate me because she's just text on a screen. So I don't have to see her judging eyes staring at me going, you don't have any FI. You shitty at it. I'm judging you. Go in and imitate the WB frog. Is that song? Yeah. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my good dumb girl. Is that frog? I want to be an INFP just to intimidate Eric now. Well, listen, Sinjin. Here's the good news. You intimidate everybody else. Spacey is a great name. Spacey's also a great guy. I like his deliberation dominant nature. It pleases me. You know, I was sort of, my innie was disallowing my process to go through about a certain thing I was thinking about yesterday. And he clarified my thoughts on it a lot. I want to come to America just to stare your soul, to know what it's like to intimidate a man. You just got to find an EHP around anywhere. You'll be able to intimidate him just fine. I'm practicing displays of the supervising type for everyone I meet. I want to see how many people I can intimidate this way. That's a good idea. I like that idea a lot. If you can identify what type they are before you start acting in some way to them, then you could, in fact. You got engaged in caramel. That must have been so difficult to clean up. Oh, wait. Carmel. Oh. What does it mean about you if you're intimidated by a type with SE polar? I mean, I'm not intimidated by the SE polar. The SE polar is why I like INFPs and INTPs, is because they and I share a fundamental countervaluing of expectations linked to SE. So, but if we can really think about it in terms of, how comfortable are you when people have expectations that link to that cognitive function? I'm not comfortable with people having expectations linked to that cognitive function. I hate being expected to follow through on shit. I hate being expected to commit to something and then write down my schedule and have to do it. And I hate having homework and shit like that, you know? I want SE to serve my NE. So what kind of SE do I do successfully? I've done a lot of physical labor around here, like digging a hole for the pond and filling the hole back in when I decided it was in the wrong place, and all the time like that, right? So tongue smileys. Is that what those are called? Tongue smileys? See, you distract me. You distract me, Kate Scott. I was on a roll there, and you distract me. I actually think INFPs are intimidated by ENTPs because INFPs are insecure at TI and ENTPs are effortlessly good at it, even though it's not an implicit value. Well, yeah, but it's the thing is, it's like I recognize my own the limitations of my one deliberation. Just in talking with Spacey, who's got 2, who's an INFP, or Susie, who's got 2, who's an INFP. And same thing with INFPs. I just don't have really many INFPs in my life. I don't really have any, I don't think. If an INFP is staring at Eric, does the bloke get intimidated? Yes, I do. If an INFP is staring at me. Because the thing is, I figured out why they're intimidating. It's basically, they're not giving you FEQs because they still need to deliberate about it in 2 different ways, And whereas INFPs will give you a little bit more FEQs because they're deliberating in 2 ways as well, but they're seeking FE themselves, so they're just sort of they're FE users. I mean, they're FE front stack, so they just are give you a little bit more of the communicative aspects of FE. Now, we think about FE in 2 different ways. Think about it as being good at FE means being perceived well, being liked, being thought to be cool or whatever. But the other kind of FE is that which is serving others instead, which is like, I'm giving you the FEQs that I understand and want you to continue. There's a lot of little things that one does in communications that are facilitatory of momentum. INFPs, more so than INTPs, what they're doing something that you kind of dream somebody would do until you actually experience it directly, which is they're listening attentively, hearing and understanding what you say, and taking it all into consideration. Yeah, but am I right? Or, well, of course, that's to be determined by that individual, by their 2 deliberation processes over the course of some time, stretching after this conversation ends. So there's no real-time FEQs about, like, am I succeeding in this argument? Am I winning you over? Am I convincing you? Or am I am I talking too much? Am I, they're so comfortable in being in the moment. Like, there's no doubt in an INFP that they are a particular self. They're a dominant particular self with FI. And their third slot function, their scorecard, is also a particular self. SI and FI being the 2 most self things. So the least self person is going to be ENFJ because they have SI polar and FI ignoring. And the most self person is going to be, I guess, ISFP because they have FI dom. They've got well, no, I guess it would be INFP then. Yeah, because the SI. So, okay. Well, for what it's worth, it's unlikely for the INFPs to be judging you. They're just digesting what you're saying. I know they're just digesting it, but what I keep, it's like, I want more control over the other person's perceptual processes than will ever be possible with an INFP. That's what it boils down to. I'm used to having shit, I'm used to being able to act and deliberate, which in communications is really the real-time interfacing modality, because interfacing like with FE and shit is not really about communicating the words so much as it is about managing the other person. So it's like I want to be able to go through there and do bam, 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 based on the other person's agreement, disagreement, cues, etc., and have that allows me to attain in my interface function while using my action and deliberation function. But I can't do that without NFTs. So it's just I always feel like I'm being graded basically, because and I'll find out about the grade later, which is also makes it like I still don't even know what they think or feel or whatever. So that's why they intimidate me. FE can come across as selfless because the FE user wants it to come across that way rather than as manipulating sensibilities to their benefit. Right. And the thing is, it actually is selfless because they're satisfied by being credited for selflessness. So in that sense, it's like Becky's very selfless. She's helped me and Kimberly a lot of times and not asked for anything in return. And in fact, EHPs in general, they hate being beholden. They don't want to impose or anything or need the other person more than the other person needs them. This is a very selfish thing to do. I'm learning slowly over time that being the one who never needs you and is always willing to help you though and is cool and likes you and stuff, that basically they keep themselves out of the fray is denying other people the opportunity to be needed too, and because there's vulnerability in saying, hey, I need you, can you help me? And just because we're cool and you like me, not because I'm going to pay you or something. There's vulnerability in that lets the other person get close to you. And it's something that EHPs are very scared to do but the reason we're scared to do this, we're scared to impose on others or ask of others or stuff like that or be beholden, is because we see it as a possible area where we could be critiqued successfully. And we don't want to be able to, we don't want to lose that argument. We don't want to be subject to legitimate critique about how we're imposing, we're burdening others and stuff like that. I disagree with you, Freddie Chandler, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me go up here and see this. ENFJs are pretty unique and way more out there in their personality. For IDOM, they have a strong sense of identity, though. They don't. It seems that way, but they don't. They have almost no sense of identity. So you want to have a clarity of whether your INFPs like you or not. No, it's not that. It's I prefer modalities in which the person isn't always is unavoidably revealing to me stuff. INFPs are the type that can manage successfully to reveal nothing, and also that even when they do reveal things, the things they're revealing are often confusing to me because most of the meaning probably is contained by some FI thing that I'm missing entirely, So I'm not insecure about my TI per se. The insecurity is more about others expecting me to externalize it. It takes energy to do that, especially in this situation. It also calls for high FE. Yeah, it does take energy in general to externalize, but it really depends on what kind of stack, where it is in your stack, what kind of externalization. For you, externalizing your TI would be meaning you're using either NE or SE per SE. Are you an STP? Bag of chips. Wouldn't if I make the INFP have a need to express themselves, though, they would view the world through a personal lens. So in a way, everything they would do would be an expression of themselves. Well, sure, they feel a need to express themselves. I feel the need to express themselves. That's an NE thing. NE is the need to talk, basically. Whether you're saying anything worthwhile or not. I need to talk a lot. I need to talk a shit ton. When I don't talk enough, when I'm not doing this enough.
See, I don't think any needs to talk.
I do.
Maybe you do, but I don't think fundamentally that. I always felt like the most talking was actually mostly a result of the extroverted judging functions to me. But
I mean, what I would say, Spacey, is that the difference between INTP and ENTP is that your priority is the ideas, and my priority is the externalization of them in a lot of ways. So your NE is tool function, instrumental. It's not. It's you don't need to say it out loud for you to talk it. You're talking it in your head. You've got plenty of narrative going on in your head and plenty of parsing and shit going on in your head of ideas. So when I say talk, I guess I should mean turn into words. Extroverted intuition, the dominant function, verbalizes, externalizes those words. Extroverted intuition in the second slot function doesn't necessarily do that. And but in response to the self-expression thing, yes, it's true that INFPs are going to feel the need for self-expression, probably more so even than INTPs, although I think both types are going to feel almost unavoidably as though they're under-expressing themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Let's see. Theory of reciprocity. If I give you a cheese, you give me a cracker. Manity, meh. It seems like you and Becky would have a good balance of masculine and feminine energy. Yeah, I mean, we do, I think. And I think that I enjoy your company a lot. I would like to have some time to sit down, more time to sit down, just to hang out with just her for a stretch time during this trip at some point. Because I find in general that I have my most meaningful exchanges when I'm dealing with people one-on-one. So, and that's kind of a new thing. It's kind of a new phenomenon for me. But I don't remember thinking that before. I may have, I don't remember thinking it. ENFJs are interfacers, INFJs are knowers, correct. And the reason ENFJs don't really have a good sense of themselves is they've got their SI, to the extent that they demonstrate it with stories about their past, they're made up stories that are tools for their FE to use. They don't remember anything about their past, really. I mean, they don't remember specific details about their experiences. The other thing is they dismiss the legitimacy of the experiences of others entirely. If somebody says, well, I'm going to go with this option because I've gone with it before and it's worked for me and I'm satisfied with it. And an ENFJ would just, inherently throw up their hands like, you're just fucking idiot. That is not how you make decisions. Oh my God, they won't say that because they're ENFJs. But the other thing is they see everybody as characters, as examples of types and examples of archetypes and not as human beings. And ENFJ is going to tell you,
I hate that. You're
going to have to forget the past. If you want to really be who you are meant to be, you have to let go of that past. Jordan Peterson, if you are clinging to a memory from a long time ago and repeating it time and time again, you keep coming back to it, the same memory from the past, you keep remembering it, it's from quite a long time ago, that's some significant problem you have to deal with. No, it's not. That's SI. But if you're an ENTJ, like Jordan Peterson, and you're polar SI, you think it's a disability of some sort, a disorder. Oh, I've got this horrible disorder. It's called memories from a long time ago. Ron Solo. Let's see. Let me see about Ron Solo's slot function, slot description. Short function slot descriptions. 1, it's already done. Easy. 2, let me handle that. 3, I'll take some help, but I'll handle most of it. I would call 3, watch me succeed at this. Which is, you be the audience, Uh, number number 4. I really want some help. Please just do this. Yeah, the latter one. Can you just do this for me, please? 5. Get that shit out of here. Last resort. No, I wouldn't say that. No. I wouldn't say that for 5. I would say 5 is that is absolutely fantastic, amazing. And now this other thing over here is what we should do. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I've forgotten already about what you were talking about. It's ignoring. We actually love it. I love FI. I mean, NI. I love NI. I love hanging out with INFJs. I like it when people drop NI bombs. Like, here's a single insightful thing that makes you go, wow. I love that shit. I eat it up. I pursue it hardcore in my music. Especially, I try to get as NI as I can. But the problem is not get that shit out of here. It's that, oh, did I forget to put the cream in to this casserole? Jesus Christ, how could I forget that? That's like the most important ingredient. It's kind of like the important ingredient you're always forgetting to put in. Ordinary philosophy. That's my favorite kind of philosophy. I hate non-ordinary philosophy. 6, that's easy. Watch this. I'd say 6 is, no. You don't do that to me. I do that to you. You don't tell me how to do shit. I tell you how to do shit. That's 6 slot TE. I hate being told how to do shit. Eric, it might be easier if you don't do it the incredibly stupid way you're doing it. Shut up! I'm having fun. Leave me alone. Well, ENFJs aren't wrong, though. The past does hold you back. Speaking to the tertiary SI user who is perpetually haunted by her past failures. That's not speaking of a tertiary SI user perpetually haunted by her past failures. That's speaking as a polar SE person who's going to necessarily be reflective of their experiences, reflecting on their experiences. But you don't have to, that doesn't have to hold you back. It's like the reason you're haunted by past failures has to do with what you're prioritizing in terms of values. So if you think, you got to be very careful when critiquing yourself for failures to make sure that they're your failures and not failures on someone else's metric. The degree of internalization of value matrices that we encounter in the world is part of the process of becoming a human being. So it's unavoidable. You got to internalize all kinds of shit. Some of it is good and well-intentioned, but still not applicable to you. And those are the ones that are the trickiest, because those are the ones we're going to internalize. It is true that there are good and important, just and right and well-intentioned ways to suggest you should value SE more. But it doesn't mean that it's the right, it doesn't mean that works for you at all. And to the extent that you do internalize those things, you got to remember, if you were walking around with no arms and you saw that this mother was walking around with this kid who had no arms and she kept scolding the kid, Johnny, you've got to try harder to pick that thing up. Okay? You just got to try to put your hands together and grab it and lift it up. People would go, what the fuck is wrong with you, woman? This child has no arms. It is not possible for you to scold him into picking things up. But that happens all the time with cognitive functions in the world. It didn't happen to me, really, because I got lucky again. And so, unlike what Nietzsche says, my successful attainment of things is a combination of luck and comfort, mostly, and not much else. I mean, it's the self that I am that manifested in the ecosystem in which I grew up and became who I am, which is to say, it was an ecosystem that was conducive to my thriving for at least some stretches of it, at least especially when I was a kid. And if you get a good foundation like that, like my childhood was very conducive to my thriving. Not perfectly, but very. And I had fundamentally a base of my mom especially, but both my parents, telling me that I was that what I wanted was most important. That the most important thing in life was to do what makes you happy and excited and stuff like that. Even though I can't say that they lived that vision themselves, they wanted it for me. So that's why I am like I am now, because with that foundation that built my basic assumptions about how life ought to proceed, then I had to battle with the reality that life didn't live up to those expectations. And I struggled for stretches of time. I was, obviously an alcoholic. I didn't have external world things that were conducive to my being as much after I left my childhood. The world doesn't love me as much as my parents. So, yeah, it's so hard to parse though. Would hate to be the sort of person who makes excuses and doesn't take responsibility for her life. Why is it wrong to expect INFPs and IHPs to make an impact? It's wrong for me to expect you to make an impact because it presumes a lot. Is it wrong for you to expect yourself to make an impact? I think a better word would be want. Do you want to make an impact? If so, go ahead and do it. If not, don't fret about it. There's no point in sitting around feeling shame about what you don't do. Now, you know this, of course, but it doesn't prevent you from feeling it. The point being, when you're considering something that you might want to do, make an impact. Well, you said you're 21 years old. Is that correct, Freddie Chandran? And you are stuck in your past failures? You've got to accept the fact you got to give your future self some credit, okay? Give your future self some credit. Your future self will have learned from your youthful mistakes. And you're still just a kid, basically, at 21, 20, something like that. Like my daughter. She's an adult, obviously, but you gotta give your future self some credit and think, I will grow and learn and understand things better as I age because I have SI in my front stack instead of a back stack. And until I experience some things, I won't really get it. I won't understand things that I don't personally experience to some extent. You gotta remember that. You gotta keep in mind that there's an ignorance that precludes deliberation. You got it. Sometimes there are things you cannot deliberate about because you got to go get your hands dirty and get a feel for what it's like, right? That means sometimes you got to interface, not deliberate. If you as an INFP want to do more shit, then choose to think about those things you want to do as non-deliberative. In other words, it's an interface thing anyway. I don't need to make a decision about it. I'm either going to do it or not. Do I want to do it? Do I feel like doing it? Then start doing it. If not, then don't think about it. Like don't muse on the fucking conclusion that one should draw about it, because that's what SE polar means. I'm telling you basically don't be SE polar, which is impossible. But what it means is to say that not everything requires you to have a conclusion. Some things require you to have a decision. And the decision needs to be maybe predicated on conclusions or not. But regardless, it is distinct. When something's a decision, there's no point in parsing out conclusions about it any further. And that's the challenge for INFP and INTP as well, is to remember that they've got to distinguish between decisions and conclusions. The Wonder Years, then the Disco Years, then the Tron years, followed by the Rubik's Cube years. McDrama Bear says, bro, this live stream is pretty useful to me. I appreciate your existence in this world. Well, thanks, McDrama Bear, or MC Drama Bear. I appreciate your existence in this world too. I'm glad this live stream is useful. I I like my shit to be useful, even though I don't value utility as a frame. This is an example of 6 slot TE. You know, I do very much want to be useful to other people. I recognize seeing Abraham and Susie together. Abraham is basically Susie's little bitch, which is fine. I don't mean that derogatorily at all, even though it totally sounds that way. What I mean is he's SE demonstrative. So he instead of like Kimmy asked me to, I can't do that. I'm incompetent with my polar TE at fixing this basic thing, like the fridge being too cold or something. Um, I go and fix it for her. So you might say I'm her little bitch in that way. But what I don't like to do, and what annoys the fuck out of me, is if we're both sitting down like at the couch or whatever, and she goes, "Can you go get me a whatever?" I'm like, "Can you go get yourself or whatever?" So the thing is, Abraham likes that, just like I like being helpful to Kim in how to do shit. He likes being helpful to Susie in just like getting her shit and stuff. I don't know, doing little things, being her page, right? So, it's a clear difference, though. It's like, and I understand as well that whether or not what it is you want to give to the other person in a relationship is important. I don't know where I got onto this from, but Kate Scott, you say I remind you of someone very important in your life. It's amazing to see how you move and act so similarly. It is quite amazing to see that phenomenon occur. And I've seen it plenty of times too. Like, oh my God, those two people really are so much alike. I feel that way about Becky. I mean, you know, and it almost insists that one produce some sort of explanation as to how this if you gather all the people who are just like me and Becky together and put them all in a big group, why is it that all these people seem to be like exactly the same? Well, the answer is cognitive functions and type and shit. And it's frustrating that the world doesn't view function-based personality type as legitimate, because it's not like the alternative is winning the argument in any meaningful sense, because the alternative is not arguing against anybody who knows that argument. That was the problem. The big five people, they're like, oh, well, it's more sciencey or something. And they've got some credentials after their names and stuff. And so it's just sort of sustaining its muster for right now or whatever. But there's not a single fucking one of them, or all of them put together, that wouldn't be subject to the blast wave of my nuclear bomb of truth. There's no way they're going to win that fucking argument against me in a million fucking years. Big Five is just about worthless. How do Abraham and Susie help each other with their polars? Well, Abraham's demonstrative. That's where maybe I was going with that. Abraham's demonstrative SE. Well, Susie doesn't have any SE really. Well, now she does. She's got Abraham doing shit for her, right? INFPs need their dual. I need my dual too. I don't have any tendency to apply experiential knowledge. I don't have the habits to pay attention to when I'm getting hungry and how important that is, and when I need to sleep and how important that is, and I don't have the habit of looking to my past experience in terms of even meanings for relevant data in the current moment. But I need my dual, and I mean, I can feel myself rounding out continually, like more focus on SI, more just fewer expressions of a limited self, like not just being reflexively me, but hopefully metacogniting into something that's more fluid or versatile or something. Abraham is an ESFJ. Can you think of any type that doesn't need their dual? I mean, definitionally, that would not be the case. Everybody needs to be balanced out by somebody else who's got the complementary function stack. Kate Scott says she doesn't think anyone needs their dual. I mean, I don't think. Okay, need is an interesting word. I think it's not. I think it is definitely the case that everyone will be made more fully realized in the company of their dual, and that it's most realized in the company of their dual in a romantic relationship. That's what I think. But I can understand why lots of people would not like that idea and would want to falsify it. It suggests that if you're not in a dual relationship, you're living wrong. And so I can absolutely support anybody who says, I don't like that notion, Eric, and I think it imposes a normative frame on something that shouldn't have a normative frame and denies everybody their individual differences and allowing that whatever. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not advising anybody to do anything. I'm not saying you're immoral for not doing it. I'm not saying I think you're somehow less optimal or less realized than me because you're in a dual relationship. But I nevertheless believe that every human being would be made most optimally whole by getting into a dual monogamous relationship with their dual and living their life in that relationship, like all their life. Econdio Brennan says an ESFP is a tough sell for me. Yeah, I mean, listen, if I were an INTJ, I guess I would find something appealing about them that I don't currently.
They're great in the sack.
They're great in the sack. They fuck with an unreserved fury. They're also often in the sack with various people.
Yeah, most likely.
I have slept with an ESFP before. Once, a long time ago. I know she's an ESFP because she's so obviously an ESFP. And in retrospect, I didn't know at the time, obviously, but now in retrospect, it's obvious she's an ESFP. She's currently going out with Cameron, so it's like I had intercourse with her like when I was 19, maybe, or something, 20, maybe even 17. I don't even know, but now it's 30 years later, and Cameron's going out with her, and he's dated her on a couple of occasions, but he's an ISTJ. He needs an ENFP. He's got an ESFP. And it's pretty clear to me that how, like, if he had an ENFP, how happy he'd be. But, he won't leave that woman, even though she's quite horrible, but whatever. And ESTJs should not drive you crazy, Freddie Shannon. ESTJs get a bad rap. ESTJs are fine and cool and stuff. You just gotta, in fact, INFPs will appreciate what. This is the thing that I can appreciate about ESTJ, like my dad, is he is so authentic, really, in a lot of ways to his feelings, because he seeks that, and I see it all the time. I see him being kind, being good, taking care of everything and everyone that he loves and cares about, and making sure that everyone's okay. I see him doing it with my mom, with me, with Delilah, with Kimberly, with everybody that's in his life. He doesn't have very many people in his life. He's got 4 or 5. And so all types would be driven mad by their own dual. This is the thing. I'm sort of driven mad by Kimberly, but I really believe that to the extent that I'm driven mad by her, it's to the extent that she deviates from the type norms because of particularist experiences. Now, ISFJ is always going to be defined quite a bit by their particularist experiences. And so in that sense, there's a certain variability within the type, depending on how they were raised and what they endured or didn't, Okay, I got you, Freddie. All types. So there may be an element. There certainly is an element between duels that is. It goes like it's basically this. You complement each other and balance each other if you understand each other to do so and trust each other to do so. But it depends how old you are. The older you are, the harder it is for a dual relationship to, or the longer it takes for a dual relationship to do all of its cleaning, because it basically cleans both people. But it takes a long time, and it may not make it there with a dual relationship if you're old, because Kimberly and I, the dual relationship has to clean, still has to clean a lot of fucking stuff. And that's what it's doing. It's cleaning for me, my stuff, which is fairly minor to clean by comparison. Her shit, it's cleaning, and it's a battle because she's cleaned that dirt, hard. And I, you know, yeah, it's Freddie Chandran. I think about Becky's friend Barry, who's in the SFP, who's more like that, whose conviction doesn't run afoul of my TI, and who doesn't feel the need to argue with me. The ACJ's got a bad rap because of relentless INFJ propaganda. I don't know. I think they get a bad rap in general because they've got bad NI, they got polar NI, and they've got gruff TE serving FE. So it's like they often seem to not get what's important and then be bossy about it, about unimportant things. It's gonna rub people the wrong way in general. What's it like to interact with my supervisee type? It's my supervisee type. I just think, most time it's plenty pleasant, but every time the supervisee type tries to win a battle of some sort, it backfires on them. There's one thing. So, like Colin tried to win this battle. I was helping my dad sell this. I was selling my dad's car for him. It wasn't selling it for him. I was helping him to sell it, finding him a buyer and stuff like that. So I did that, and we agreed to sell it to Tara. Now, Tara is Kimberly's son's girlfriend. So because of that, I told him, okay, you know what? I'll give this, because it's Tara, you can have it for $4,200, which is like the very bottom. If it had not sold for a couple of weeks, I was going to maybe charge that, try that low. I probably could have gotten closer to $5,000 for it, right? And probably could have gotten $5,000 for it. But anyway, so I said, now look, we'll do this 42. That's the family price. That's that's the very bottom of the value of it. And then my dad, with his fucking polar NI, is like, oh well, if you're selling it to her, you need to have her have her mechanic check it out too, because I don't want there to be some problem and then it cause problems. And so they did have a checkout, and the mechanic found some sort of like small leak that's going to cost like $300 to fix. And now they want me to, they want us to cover some of that cost of that and blah, 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 blah. And, when the conversation happened and Tara's mom were there, and me and my dad and Kimberly and Colin were there, and I'm like, well, actually, I don't really think we should go any lower than this. 4,200 is already a rock bottom price. You should expect to get a certain amount of imperfection in the car. Yes, there's wear on the tires and stuff like that, but all this stuff I knew going in here and the pricing, and I know that 4,200 is a very good price. So I don't want to drop it to $4,000, which is what they wanted me to do. Well, Colin, bitched to his mom that he didn't like the way I was driving a hard bargain and stuff there or whatever. But of course, I wasn't driving a hard bargain. I had already given him a super good bargain, and the things they were driving a hard bargain. They were trying to get more out of it when they shouldn't have been. Now, Colin ended up losing that battle. But at first, when he talked to his mom, Kim came to me and was suggesting that I had mishandled that situation. However, once I explained it all, she agreed with me that, in fact, it's Colin and Tara and Tara's mom who were, if anything, overstepping there, or making this not a family thing anymore, you know? Ask Kimmy to buy you a Tesla lighter. They're pretty cool. Okay, maybe I'll get Tesla lighter. I jumped into the axis of time to let you know you're still dope people in the future. Well, thanks, Ahmed Assam. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Doing time jumps ruins the grammar. Well, that's why I don't time travel. Clean grammar is too important to me. Okay, I'm going to end this live stream now. It's been over 2 hours. My mouth is dry. My penis is full of urine, and I'm going to rise from my chair so that I can go pee and stop this for right now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.